These little particles, born of universal thinking in its highest octave, are the first manifestations of what man calls life. They are the first manifestations of the appearance of individual existence. They are the beginning of the appearance of separate existence. They are the beginning of the appearance of opposites. They are the beginning of positive and negative electrical units magnetically united. They are the beginning of male and female individuals. They are the beginning of apparently separate thinking, separate functioning, separate acting, separate living male and female beings. These children of thinking mind differ in no way from man or mountain or oak or rose, except in their simplicity. They are light, and so is man and the mountain. They think and live and require new energy to generate energy in order to continue their appearances as the beginning of divine ideal. They continue themselves as ideal by transforming other energy into the ideal of themselves. They continue others as ideal by radiating energy for absorption by others or by being consumed to supply energy for others of which they become a part. Just as the sun continues the ideal of itself by transforming other energy into the ideal of itself, and just as the sun radiates its energy to continue the ideal of this planet by radiation of its energy for absorption by this planet, so does one light unit give to another and take away energy from another. All ideal is energy. Therefore, the energy of one ideal can be transformed into the energy of another to continue the ideal of that other. All energy is light, and all ideal is light. One light unit does not destroy another by absorbing it. The one but assimilates the ideal of the other. An external unit such as Neptune in our solar system would not be destroyed by being drawn into the sphere of a new integrating system. The new generative system would reverse Neptune's electromagnetic charge and make it increasingly generative until someday its journey in a centrifugal spiral orbit would end in the hot fires of the central nuclear sun, or it would become one with it in energy. Again, in accord with periodic law, would the ideal of Neptune be reborn in energy. Once again, would it either travel the path of the opening spiral toward nebulosity or the closing spiral path of another new system. Or, if it were not so drawn into another system, it would in time disintegrate its mass through expansion and cessation of motion into a negative nebula and reform through inertia into a positive nebula. All ideal is born of the energy of thinking, and all ideal continues itself as ideal by the energy of its thinking. Light units grow, just as all things grow, and by the same process, the absorption of the energy of other light units. Just as simple ideal becomes involved and complexed in the thinking, so do light units grow from simplicity to complexity. Radium was once hydrogen, gold was lithium, man was helium, the mountain was silicon, the cooling dew was flaming nitrogen, and all were all of these and all things else. Everything that is of everything else that is. Man is but an involved and complex organization of countless myriads of light units assembled into systems and systems of systems in the orderly process of continuous thinking of the ideal of man. In the complexing of the ideal of man, these myriads of light units coordinate in order to function in accordance with the evolving ideal of man. Each thinking light unit adds to the ideal of itself from the source of ideal, and all thinking registers itself in new light particles. Just as a growing nation coordinates its functions, so does the complexing idea of man coordinate its functions. just as a nation of people divides the work of its unit and centralizes its government for the continuation of the ideal of itself as a nation, just so does that complex organization called man divide the work of its units and centralize its government in order to continue the ideal of itself as a man. Man's concept of a thinking brain as the only thinking part of man is a wrong concept. The brain is but the seat of government of the nation of thinking light units called man. These light units, assembled as a man, think individually but coordinate as a unit, and each functions in its place, else the ideal of the man could not continue. Man also thinks individually but coordinates as a unit in universal thinking. The individuality of man as a part of the universe is exactly analogous to the individuality of a light unit as a part of man. This is the great law of evolving ideal. Ideal is evolutionary and continuous. Therefore, is the recording of ideal also continuous. Ideal is constantly building itself up in all forming systems. This is integration. This is what man calls growth. It is life. Ideal is constantly tearing itself apart. This is disintegration. This is what man calls fading. It is death. Integration and disintegration are simultaneous in all systems. Integration is growth. Fading is growth. Disintegration is life. Death is life. Of this more will be written in its proper place, for it will be more easily understood when the cause of electricity, magnetism, and gravitation has been made clear, and also when the laws of magnetic and electric lines of force, which, by their opposition, cause the appearance of that which man calls the created physical universe of integrating and disintegrating matter, has been clearly written down. No state of motion ever began or ever ended. And the next chapter is called Electricity and Magnetism. Definitions. Electricity is the active, attractive force within mind which appears to concentrate, contract, and compress the non-compressible substance of mind into the forms created by the process of thinking, and to evolve those forms by raising the potential or power dimension of energy by accumulation. Magnetism is the reactive, repellent force within the substance of mind which appears to expand the forms created by mind in the process of thinking, and to accomplish their dissolution through lowering the potential of energy by releasing the accumulation. Positive electricity is the generative energy of thinking mind registered in light units which are gravitationally or centrifugally resisting magnetic influence by expelling it. The light units are contracting, registering their contraction and their resistance to magnetism in heat. Their electrical orbital motion is toward a closing spiral in one plane. Positive electricity is that state of motion in which electricity dominates magnetism. Positive electricity is that state of motion in which centrifugal force dominates centrifugal force. Negative electricity is the radiative energy of thinking mind registered in those same light units which are radically or centrifugally yielding to inflowing magnetic influence. They are expanding, registering their yielding and their expansion in cooling, and their electric orbital motion is toward an opening spiral in many planes, culminating in nebulosity. Negative electricity is that state of motion in which magnetism dominates electricity. Negative electricity is that state of motion in which centrifugal force dominates centripetal force. Laws. All mass is both electric and magnetic. All mass simultaneously expresses both opposites of all effects of motion, and each opposite is cumulatively preponderant in sequence. All electromagnetic mass forms into systems of units which revolve in spiral orbits, both fetally toward and centrifugally away from nuclear centers.